anyone else comes in late, that's absolutely fine. They're still welcome. So just find yourself in a lying down position. Just on your mat, and if it feels more comfortable to be with the knees bent, or just have the legs long, and you can just take the arm bones down by the sides. Palms up. You can just give a little shake out of your head, your shoulders, maybe feel around through the hips, make sure that your low back is comfortable. Just close the eyes and begin to take some deep breaths. You might like to be just breathing those deep breaths through the nose. Or maybe with me, inhaling through the nose and exhaling from the mouth. You can repeat that breath, nice, slow, long, deep breaths. If it doesn't feel right to exhale from the mouth, just keep the breath through the nose. Just one more long, deep breath like so. And return back to your nasal breath. Just a more natural breath for yourself. Notice if you're tensing here, particularly around the face, the jaw, the tongue, just let that all be soft. And if you have got the knees bent, just start to slide the heels, legs long into the floor. Bring your legs together and pull the toes back here. Really ground into the backs of the legs. You might be able to ground so much into your legs that your heels lift slightly away from the floor. Feel the connection of your core. Pull the navel in towards your spine. And at the same time, activate the pelvic floor. On the next inhale, start to reach the arm bones down by the sides and all the way up overhead. So keeping activity through the legs, your feet, your core and your pelvic floor. Start to really feel the sides of your body get long. So you can just reach maybe a little bit further through one arm, reach your fingertips further back, and then maybe through the other arm. Find yourself in more of a neutral position. You can rest your feet for a moment and start to stretch the feet with the toes all the way forward in the opposite direction to the fingertips. Interlace your fingers and extend just your index fingers. So Kali Mudra, pressing the palms of the hands together and lengthening as much as you can throughout the whole body, throughout the limbs. And just notice here if it's better for you to stay with the elbows slightly bent. So your arm bones might not necessarily reach the floor if there's any distress into your shoulders, any tension. And then slowly start to release. So you can just release the hands, arm bones all the way back down by the sides. Start to take the feet back into the floor. Hug your knees in towards your chest. And you can just rock a little bit here side to side. Just ease out the low back. Come to a neutral position. Take the feet down into the floor here and bring the feet about mat width distance. Take the arm bones out to the side and you might like to put them into a cactus. So that's where you've got the elbows bent at about a 90-degree angle and the palms are up. If that doesn't feel comfortable, just bring the arms straight or down by the sides. And we'll just begin to take the knees over to one side and then over to the other side. Try not to be in any hurry. See if you can draw the knees all the way down towards the floor. Get a nice stretch through the front of the hips. And then when you're ready, you're already maybe going to the other side. We're just working back with your breath and feeling that you can shift from one side to the other side smoothly. And if it feels all good, you might like to even take the head over to one side while the knees are going to the other side. Noticing the massage that's happening into your very lower back. Lubrication of the femur bones of your thighs into your hip sockets. Also just really easing out through the neck. Try not to be in any hurry. And we'll just take one more to each side. The next time that your knees are over to the left side, take the legs all the way over to that side and find yourself in a simple twist. So you can look all the way over to the right, opposite direction to your legs. And just have a little check-in here through the arms and spine. Is it better for you to have the arm bones just straight, shoulder line, palms down? Would you like to possibly extend the arm bones all the way up and overhead? Take some deep breaths. Try to resist with the weight of your legs and your hips down. And in the other direction, try to resist down with your shoulders. Start to come out, take a deep breath, return your arm bones into that cactus or could be into the floor. Bring yourself back into that neutral starting position. Feet are about mat width distance. Just do a turn to each side. And then the next time that your legs are over to the right side, bring the legs all the way there and find yourself in the twist over to the other side. So that left leg, I'm going to take it a little bit further over and you're rolling your head, left shoulder all the way in that opposite direction. Take some deep breaths. See if you can enhance your twist. Maybe you're enjoying that lengthening of the arms again, all the way back. Finding not only a twist through your spine, but also a greater length through your spine. Just one more breath here. And then slowly start to come out. So return your feet back into the floor. This time, adjust more or less hip width this alignment. Now, if you want to have a hug of the knees, feel free. We'll take the arm bones down by the sides. Feel that your feet are hip width along with the alignment of your heels to your knees. Yeah, so you can always look there like I did and just check that if you're not quite sure. Arm bones down by the sides. And we'll begin to lift up through the vertebrae here for rolling bridge. So the pubic bone needs to draw into your navel and you'll gradually come off one vertebra at a time. Heels are digging into the floor and slightly pulling towards your hands without actually taking them in there. And you're lifting all the way up. Stay there and feel the arch through your spine. Take some deep breaths. You might feel that your breath is a little bit more constricted as we lock into the throat. Try to keep as open through the chest as possible. And then on the next breath, start to lower yourself down. Smooth, controlled until you get to the very end of your tailbone. And we'll work through this just in time to your breath now. So each time that you inhale, rise all the way up. Remember to ground firmly, especially into your heels. When you're ready, you'll roll down all the way on the exhale. Super controlled. Very good for easing out through the spine. Also strengthening the back muscles. Just a couple more rounds. Notice if you're hurrying. Last round here. So you might like to finish the one that you're on and just complete one more final round. So when you're there, again, if you feel like hugging your knees, just go for it. You can always add that in. And we'll start to come now into a figure of four with the legs. So that outer right ankle is coming on top of your left knee. Pulling your right toes back and taking that right knee as far as you can. You might even like to use your hand, like me, to take it out a little bit further. And then you'll bring the legs in towards you. You can take the hands somewhere around the back of your left thigh. Could be the shin or over the top of the knee. So here, notice if you can traction along the length of your spine, and you do that by lifting and lengthening the crown of the head towards the rear end of your mat, and you'll notice that the back of the neck gets long because the chin draws into your throat. And you can also take the tailbone more towards the front end of your mat, and it's like the spine is pulling in opposite directions. All the while, you're still pulling in your legs, feeling a deep stretch through that right hip. Engage through your feet, pull the toes back. Notice if you're tensing, try to be very soft in the face. Remember, we're trying to de-stress, release tension from our bodies this evening. And then very slowly, we'll start to release. Just come back into the floor, take the feet into the floor, and then we'll go straight over to the other side. So left ankle, outer ankle on top of your right knee. You can use that left hand just to ease open the knee a little bit more. Pull the toes back, and then start to take the legs towards you. So hands could come around the back of that right thigh. And remember, for some days it could be very tight and you can't even get your hands around. So, a rope, a belt, something there that you can pull on instead, because you really want to make sure that your head and shoulders are down into the floor. Find that traction lengthening through the spine, and also a little bit more hugging so that you can stretch out through your left hip further. Very good one if you have been sat at a desk all day. Because what happens is that we tend to compress the lower vertebrae, and the sciatic nerve can get a little bit compressed. You might not be feeling that now, but it's something quite common that we have. It's come about through, sitting, bearing lots of weight, basically, on that area. Just one more breath. And then slowly, let's start to release, so you can just press the feet back into the floor. Hug the knees in, and we'll take the knees out wide. So hugging in and taking the knees out wide. And we'll just begin to rotate here through the hips, through the femur bones and their hip sockets. And you could have the hands, on your legs, knees, somewhere around your shins. It might feel better to have the hands out into the floor. Maybe your rotations are very wide and you're feeling some activity through the abdomen. Go in the opposite direction, just a smooth transition. Then go attuned to the control of the movements and your breath. If there's any shaking going on, it means you need to back off a little bit, smaller rotations maybe. A little bit more activity through the abdomen. And one more here before coming back into more of a neutral positioning. So you can just give a gentle hug of your knees, rock a little bit side to side, and then we'll take the feet into the floor, roll over to the side, and come up into more of a seated position. So just crossing the legs here. Feel that if it's more comfortable for you to sit on something, take that. Could be a cushion, a block. You'll be able to stay a little bit more upright with greater ease. And we'll just begin to make a nice long deep breath here with the arms all the way out to the side and all the way up. And if it feels comfortable for your neck to look up, then by all means look up. Open up the throat before exhaling and releasing back down. This time start to take your right hand out to the side. Could be nice and far away from you, even to the forearm, as you reach that left arm all the way up and overhead. So going in a little bit further and feeling an opening through the side of your body here, really pressing into your sit bone. Remember, you could be looking down, forward, or up, so long as you are comfortable through the neck. And slowly start to come out. Return back to the center, feel that alignment, length through your spine, and we'll start to take the other set of hands Fingers to the side. Remember, it could be all the way far away, even into your forearm if you have more flexibility. Reach the other arm all the way up and overhead. Get long and settle in. Remember to adjust your head if it's more comfortable to look down, forwards. Just one more breath. And then slowly start to release. So just roll out through the shoulders here a little bit. Roll out the other way. And then we'll uncross the legs and cross them in the opposite direction. So you can still be sat on something. We'll take the hands out in front of us. Take a deep breath in, get long through your spine. And on the exhale, start to walk the hands forwards. Pivoting from your pelvis, your hip points are drawing down and you're lowering all the way towards the floor. So it's a good stretch through the hips. And you could be coming all the way down with the head into the floor, into a block. You might come into forearms. So it could possibly be very tight, your non-habitual way of sitting cross-legged. You could always let go of a leg or two. And next breath in, start to come all the way up. So use the hands here, lengthen yourself all the way up. So we'll start to take the hands behind us, and if you are sat on something, I suggest that you now take that away so that you can feel the sit bones into the floor. So hands behind you, and it could be onto fingertips so that you feel you get a little bit more opening through your spine and through your chest. A little bit further away if you like, you can still be open for your chest and bend into your elbows. You get a bit more of a squeeze to the shoulders, more opening through the chest potentially. And notice if you can press your hip points further forwards. So you might notice that your knees start coming forwards, but I don't want you to lift up the hips. The sensation that you're pressing your hip points forward, the pubic bone down, lifting up through the body. Maybe you're looking up, only if it's comfortable do you lift up the chin and really open up the throat. And on the exhale, start to release. So just come back into more of a neutral spine, and then we'll take our legs into kneeling. So come into a kneeling position. So, an easier style of kneeling, coming into your calves and into your heels. You could be sat on something. If you want to work kneeling a little bit more of a challenging way, getting a deeper stretch through your knees, you could sit in between your heels and you could still wedge something underneath, a cushion, a thinner block, and you're sitting nice and tall. So just notice, if you're working into your knees and into your ankles in a way that, is sufficient for your body. If it's too much, back off. You can always be slightly forwards or more elevated. Just one more breath here in your kneeling. And then start to take the hands out in front of you. Bring yourself into all fours. So it might feel good to just stretch out the legs behind you. Take one leg at a time. Give a good tuck of those toes to really press the heel away. You do that also by pressing into your hands. Take the other leg, if you haven't already stretched it, tuck those toes, push harder into your hands, reach that heel further away. Start to return yourself back into knees. Taking the knees out wide for a wide kneed child. So it could be as wide as your mat, and we'll slowly start to come all the way down in towards your heels. So drawing the body and your head down in towards the floor, and remember, if it feels uncomfortable with your head lifted, if it hasn't quite reached the floor, just pop something underneath it, and it could always be just your arm bones. Do a deep release through your low back and into your hips. And slowly start to come out. Press the hands into the floor. Return your knees back into that neutral alignment. Tuck the toes, and we'll begin to come into a downward dog. So driving the hips up towards the ceiling, you initiate the movement from your hands. You lengthen the arms, lengthen your spine, reach the hips up higher. You might feel that your lower tummy is resting on the tops of your thighs. Bend your knees as much as you need. Make sure that your feet, hands, hips, shoulder width apart. And then we'll just start to stretch out one heel, then the other heel, and just walk out the heels. You can just feel the movement through the knees, through your pelvis, and might feel also good to just rock the torso a little bit side to side so you can look underneath the armpits here. Just one more rock to each side, and then find a very grounded, solid downward dog. Push more into your hands, elevate your hips higher. Imagine that your sit bones and tailbone have hooks on them that are attached to the ceiling and they're lifting you up. Think about deep groin creases, drawing you back. And then very slowly start to take the right foot all the way between the hands. So once you're there, just feel a low lunge, and you might like to have the hands either into fingertips or blocks. Back toes are tucked, and we're going to begin to create some movement here into that front leg, just easing out the front leg a little bit more. You can just stretch and drop the head down, and then rebend. So doing that with the breath. On the inhale, you're bending, and on the exhale, stretching back. Breathing in, and then reaching back. Just one more. Return back to your bend, and then press the hands into the floor, step back in for a downward dog. Lift your hips. Remember those hooks that are lifting you up. Start to step your left foot forwards in between the hands. Remember, you could be on blocks. Feel nice and stable, long spine. On the exhale, we'll start to stretch that front leg, just nice and easy. Your leg might not go to full extension, and you're bending again, just to a right angle ideally. Try not to take the knee over the ankle joint, and then returning. So just easing out there. Keep breathing, keep long as you can through your spine. Last couple here. Last one. And return back to your knee bend. Press the hands into the floor, step back in for your downward dog, and lift up your hips. Remind yourself of those hooks just for one more breath. And then slowly come into a plank. Take a deep breath in, entire body in the same plane. Hearts over the hands, and on the exhale, lower down, knees, chest, and chin. Really hug the elbows in here to lower yourself down. Rise up into a small cobra. First back bend, lifting up, using your back muscles to lift. And then on the exhale, tuck the toes. Could be knees first, and elevating your hips with those hooks all the way up towards the ceiling. Recheck the alignment of your hands, your feet. Take a couple of breaths. Remind yourself of those hooks, lifting you up towards the ceiling. Stepping your right foot forwards. And remember, could be hands and fingertips or blocks. Nice and comfortable, long spine. Now this time we're going to begin to drop the back knee in towards the floor. And then starting to reach back. Opening up the leg again. So breathing in. And then exhale, pushing back. Keep going, breathing, stretching, lowering, releasing back. Just two more here. Feel the connectivity of all the muscles of the legs around the bones. And last one here, press into your hands, step all the way back, lift up your hips. Left foot forwards in between the hands. Find again your lunge pose, and it could be onto those blocks. Nice long spine. Dropping that back knee down. Breathing. Each time you open up that leg, just exhale the breath. Lengthy spine. Keep open through the chest here. Notice your ability to work smoothly and controlled, and not being heavy in your knee. Just a good graze of the floor. Last one here. And then as you stretch back that hip, press into your hands, step back, lift up your hips. Take a couple of breaths. Slide through into your plank, inhaling here. Entire body in the same plane. On the exhale, lower down, super controlled. Could still be knees, chest, chin. Sliding through into your cobra, maybe a little bit higher, but only if your back bend is distributed evenly through the length of your spine, not just in your low back. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, drive up those hips with your hooks. Look at your feet, align hips, shoulder, hands, all in the same alignment. Starting to come all the way to the front end of your mat. Just walking there, and then when you arrive there, take the feet about hip width distance, and you could have the hands either on blocks out in front of you, could be on fingertips, or hands higher. I want you to get to the point where you can straighten your legs and also keep the spine straight. You can feel the back muscles that run either side of your spine click on. You can bend the knees if it's too much. Come as high up as you need. Just one more breath here. Try not to drive too much weight into your heels. Distribute. Think about very deep groins, pulling back. And then on the exhale, we'll start to fold again. But just let yourself completely hang here, upside down. Let go of the neck. Let go of your upper back. You can always take hands to opposite elbows and just notice if you are able to release your shoulders more like that. You can almost feel your entire rib cage just drop down with the weight of gravity. Soften your knees, do some sway. You can always take the feet out wider. And remember, if it is feeling too much hanging upside down, you could always return back to that half uttanasana, take a breather, and then come back down. Make the most of turning upside down. We don't do it enough in our day-to-day. It creates length through the spine. It works all of the systems in the body. Everything gets a little bit shaken up and turned upside down, rejigged. Very good for the body. Now let's start to come out very slowly. We're there a little bit longer. And you can keep looking at the floor here, tuck the chin, and just gently start to rise all the way up until you're back into more of an upright positioning with your spine. So feel that you are nice and long through your spine. Bring your feet and legs together, traditionally for Utkatasana. Hands could be on your hips, and we'll start to sit weight back into your heels. So driving your groins back and deep hip creases. You can squeeze the legs together if it feels better for you than to have the feet hip width. And we'll start to take the arm bones all the way forwards. Could be just shoulder alignment. If you're keeping the practice a little bit lighter, feels good, you could even leave the hands onto your hips. If you want to come stronger, entirely up to you, take the arms higher. We'll start to come all the way up. Take a deep breath in. You'll lengthen your legs and reach the arm bones all the way up overhead. On the exhale, take the arm bones behind you. Interlace your fingers and start to stretch open the chest, lengthening your arm bones far back and down. Notice here if you've overarched through your entire back, connect into your pelvic floor and your abdomen. Draw your rib cage slightly in. It's like you're protecting all of your organs. Draw it in, and you can still open. And then on the exhale, let's fold over the hips and legs. Take your hands and arm bones with you. And remember, if it feels unsteady, you just open up your feet. And if you don't like that through your arms, you can always bend the elbows. Good. One more breath. And then slowly start to come out. Breathe in to a chair. Sit as low and as far back as feels comfortable. Arm bones could still be lower. And we'll come into a twist. So bring your left hand somewhere onto your left thigh. And then on the exhale, we'll start to take that right elbow on the outer edge of your left thigh. Start to twist from your navel. And at the same time, lengthen through your spine. So you can't expect to twist if you don't have space through the vertebrae. Really use the hand on your hip, thigh to work that length and twist more. Could be looking to the side, down, and only really join the hands if you've got the ability to completely twist, and notice if your knees and hips, haven't shifted out of alignment. Everything stays straight. Coming out, take a deep breath in. Return with the arm bones nice and long. And then on the exhale, come into your chair. Sit lower, further back, as far as feels comfortable. Arm bones could be even to your hips already. We'll come to twist on the other side. So start to take your right hand somewhere along your right leg. Could be up to your hip. And then on the exhale, it's that left elbow that wants to cross all the way to the outside edge of your knee. At this point, just notice, have you shifted your left knee forwards and your hips far back? Try to realign, re-lengthen, and use the elbow and your hand like levers to not only lengthen, but to twist more. And you can always just be looking down. Only join the hands if you've managed to keep those alignment points and you're twisting cleanly. Crown of the head and tailbone traction in opposite directions to create space through the spine so that you can twist a little bit more. Start to come out, take a deep breath. Rise up, grounding to your heels. Lengthen up. On the exhale, this time we're folding all the way down over our hips and legs. Just bring yourself into an Uttanasana where we have the body as close to your legs as you possibly can. And if you need to bend the knees, then so be it, because the idea of this is to really just let go of the lower back. Or we might have been working it a little bit more intensely then. But start to step the hands into the floor here. Step back in for a downward dog. Lift up your hips. Feet, hands, hips, shoulder width. Remind yourself of those big hooks, lifting you up towards the ceiling, hoisting you up. We'll start to step the right foot all the way forwards. And when you're there, bring the hands on the inside of that foot and we'll take the foot a little bit more over to the right side. So it might be right to the edge of your mat if that feels comfortable. You could have the foot at a slight degree. I like my heel on the mat still, just on the edge, and then my toes are turned out to about 45-degree angle. I feel like I've got a bit more space. You could have the hands on blocks, could be fingertips. You might want to drop down that back knee. So, a little bit more challenging with the back leg still lifted. And if you want to come low down, then feel free. Low, as low as you can go. And remember the options of coming into blocks with forearms, with hands, could be with that knee down. Come back to your hands and we'll start to drop down that back knee if you haven't already. And we'll take the right hand all the way over to the right side. So it's going to come off of your mat. All off of your mat. You might like to release those back toes if you're feeling something in your knee. Start to lengthen the left arm far forwards and all the way up overhead so that you can open up. Press the pelvis forwards here. Lift up through your belly, through your chest. Maybe you're looking up. If it feels too much in that top arm, just bend it. And you can even support your head with your hand, which feels really nice to just let go of the heaviness of your head. Should feel good stretch from your front thigh into your left hip flexor all the way through your ribs. And then let's come out that one. Return the hands back into the floor. So once you're there, back into the floor, start to take that front foot all the way over to the left side, and we'll drop the outer shin into the floor. Coming in for pigeon, press the hands into the floor and lengthen up through your spine and just adjust it if you need to. So notice if you're a little bit too over to the right, do you need to align that back leg more in alignment to your hip? Maybe you need to take a block underneath your right sit bone. If it's all feeling a bit too tight, just bend that back knee. You're still working into your right hip, and we're lowering down as soon as feels comfortable for you. So try to come as close to the floor as you can, but without leaning over to that right side. So we want to keep an even weight across the pelvis. You'll feel that right hip is going to want to slump, and you want to be pulling it back and upwards. The left hip bone going forwards and downwards. Come back to your hands, take a breath, step back into a downward dog, lift up your hips. Make the most of really hoisting up your hips, lengthening your spine, arms and legs. Step your left foot forward this time. And we're taking the hands on the inside of that foot, and you're making that nice space that feels good for you. So it doesn't have to come all the way out. Maybe in that 45-degree angle, you notice a little bit more ease. And you could be dropping down that back knee, coming into blocks, releasing those back toes. Bring yourself lower down, could be onto blocks. Hands, let go. And remember, if you want to keep it active, tuck those back toes, extend the leg open. So we'll start to come back, reach hands into the floor, drop that back knee down if it isn't, and we're taking that left hand all the way over to that left side. The hand could also be in a block. Yeah, so if you are noticing that you haven't quite got enough length and space, and you're dumping too much weight, you can always come onto a block. So I didn't give that option, but you can always use your block. Yeah. And opening up. So that right arm is going to reach forwards and all the way up. You can always repeat it. You know, if it feels nice, sometimes it feels good to just repeat it and press the hips far forwards and open up your chest. Lean back. Do you need to support your head? Can you lean back further? And then slowly start to come out. Bring the hands back. And we'll start to walk that front foot all the way over to the right side of your mat. Outer shin, coming in towards the floor. And you're working pigeon on this side. Maybe noticing how the sides are differing. And you can ease into more balanced distribution of your weight across the hips. Remember that you might need something underneath your left sit bone. You might need to extend or bend that back leg. And you're lowering all the way down. It's like you're trying to bring your pubic bone to touch the floor one day. You know, so that left heel, you can always be shifting it further forwards. There shouldn't be any discomfort in your front knee. That's a sign that you might want to be a little bit more elevated. You can bend that back leg, stay more upright. So as low as feels comfortable with your head and body, without leaning over to that left side. And then let's come up, breathing in, pressing into the floor, tucking those back toes and reaching ourselves back in for a downward dog. Lift up your hips, hoist them up in those hooks, stretch down your heels, reach your fingertips forwards. Start to come all the way through into a plank, take a deep breath. Lower down, could be knees, chest, chin, or Chaturanga Dandasana, yogi's choice. Come up into a higher cobra still, but with distribution through the entire length of your spine. Remember to pull the hands back here, so really opening up through the thoracic spine. On the exhale, tuck the toes, lift up your hips, downward dog. Starting to sit into the floor, you can just cross the legs out in front of you, sit all the way down, or any way that you can come into the floor. And then you'll just extend the legs out. Make sure that you've got enough room for the legs to still be on your mat. And you might like to have some cushioning into your legs in between the torso as we begin to fold. But that's entirely up to you. Coming into a little bit more stillness. Propping up, a little bit more elevated. You'll have a nice gradient for the body to fold over. And remember, you could sit on something so that you are slightly more elevated and you'll be able to hinge a bit more deeply over the hips and legs. So just find yourself in a seated fold that you can able to maintain for at least a couple of minutes. A full back body stretch, right from your heels all the way through the legs, the back. And just make sure here that your head is comfortable and that you can breathe. So you shouldn't be with your face in cushioning. You can just turn the head to the side or place a block, a book, something there on your forehead so that your nose is free. Makes it much more pleasurable. Arm bones, you can always just hug around. Any cushioning could be on the feet or just out in front of you. Start to really calm the breath down. Notice your heart rate. Use the breath to bring it down just a little bit so we can be more quiet. Work well through the body. Now it's time to work a little bit more deeply. So reminding you that as much as I say that we're working a little bit more restoratively, we need to make this pose active. Just notice if you can lengthen yourself a little bit more and fold a little bit further. It's only one more minute here. Make the most of the time. Closing the eyes and really just being in tune to the breath and every detail of your body in the shape. Notice your ability to be quiet without wondering too much with repetitive or negative thoughts. Any busyness, just pop it to the side. Last couple of breaths here. Notice how you managed if you were still breathing. And on your next inhale, start to lengthen yourself back up, tucking the chin in, reaching yourself all the way up. So starting to find now a wide-legged straddle pose. You might like to come long ways on your mat. And any of that cushioning that you used, you might like to use it now, again, in front of you. You could be bending your knees, you might like to still sit on something, wedge in your items so that you have something to completely support your torso, right from your pubic bone all the way up through to your head. So remember, it could be a little bit more elevated. And if you've just got cushions at home, just pad them up. It could be a blanket. and you're leaning all the way over. So a little bit more of an opening now through the inner groin into your inner thighs. And remember the positioning of your head, the neck stays comfortable, and you can breathe. As much shifting around that you need to do to bring yourself into stillness is fine. Try to come there as quickly as you can. So you have just about 3 minutes here. Just your ability to just be here with the breath. If you have turned the head to one side, always turn it to the other side to create some balance. Just notice if you are comfortable, it's not too much longer. And maybe you're bringing yourself into a little bit more depth here. Remember, it's not just completely relaxed. You're doing something, you're still maybe even pulling the toes slightly back and finding more fold through your hips. Feeling that your inner groins are being pulled back. A little bit more length through the spine, even a little bit further down. You can always adjust the items that you have underneath you. And it's only just 1 minute here left. Notice your ability to be quiet, without any guidance, just being with your breath. And last couple of breaths here. Noticing how the time passed for you with this shape. And on your next breath, you can start to lengthen yourself all the way back up carefully. So with the legs out like this, nice and wide, it might be real good to just bend the knees carefully, one at a time, with the hands behind you. Now, very similar setup, but we'll use it for your back. So any cushioning, that you've managed to get from your sofa, or if you've got blocks and bolsters, marvelous. So looking for your length spine to be completely onto your cushioning. And you can just take the feet first onto the floor about hip width. And you can even support your head to come down carefully, engage the belly, and just release all the way back. So any type of cushioning, so long as your chest is open and your head ideally is on something. It's not just hanging back, unless you really want to be open and work more through a fish. But we're just coming in here to more of a supported Supta Baddha Konasana. And you can just take the feet out, soles of the feet together and the knees out wide. You might notice a little bit of a more stretch into your inner thighs, into your inner groin. Just make sure that your low back isn't feeling discomfort. You can always pick up your sit bones and lengthen them. But the idea is really to open up the chest. So if it is feeling, too much into the inner groin, you could either do a half variation where one of the feet is into the floor, and you can even extend that leg if it feels better. And about, halfway through, I'll tell you, you can just change. Lots of options of the legs. You could just leave them completely long. Feet into the floor. Arms are just out by the sides, and they could be a bit more open if you want to feel more stretch and a broadening across the chest. Otherwise, if it feels a little bit too intense, just take them down by the sides. Just close the eyes and enjoy some deep breaths. Just let all the facial expression go here. Let a sense of gravity take over. Let all your supports help you to let go. You're just breathing. Enjoying all sensations passing through your body, and any disturbance that comes. You just catch yourself and you return to your breath. Almost training your mind to not have so much thinking going on. Yes, the mind is there to help us solve problems, work things out, get through stress, but at the same time we must have elements of rest, spaces in between all of that busyness. And like that we'll be able to be much more efficient. Just enjoy here, one more minute. Is there any more depth that you can bring into this shape? And maybe you're deciding to change the legs if you did that half, or you're letting the legs be long. Maybe you're propping up a little bit more to find more opening through your chest now that you're a bit more open. Last couple of breaths here. Really savor the breaths. And slowly start to come away from your cushioning. So if you haven't got the knees bent, I suggest you do that. Press the feet into the floor. You can take the hands either behind you to lift yourself up, engaging the belly, or a little bit easier still, you can just roll over to the side, press into your hands, and we'll come into Shavasana. So any of the materials that you have been using, you can either use them to support your final rest pose, or just pop them out to the side. So this is where we literally lie back in the floor and do nothing. And just notice if a lengthening of the legs and the arm bones down by the sides serves you. It could be with the feet into the floor to feel more comfort, especially for your back. Any cushioning under the head and the knees. You might like to even have the hands, somewhere on your torso. Connecting a little bit more to the breath. and helping yourself along to find a depth in this rest. It is only a few minutes, but we'll make it of the utmost quality. Say to yourself that your physical body now can rest. There's nothing else that you need to be doing. There should be no tensing, no forcing, just softness. Notice your mental body, any thinking that's going on, and just help yourself to switch off. Any difficulty, just bring yourself to the breath. Use the breath to calm down any emotions, any worries, any stress. Shavasana is sometimes challenging for you. You can keep just saying to yourself, you know, I need this time. I permit myself to relax. I've worked hard today. Tell yourself that this is the most healing of poses in yoga. You can again find that very expressionless face where all gravity just descends on you and brings you further down into the floor. You're in your last minute, and just see if you can bring yourself a little bit deeper. Just like we did in those last few poses, we'll do the same here. But instead of bringing yourself with some activity into a pose, we're doing the absolute opposite here. Very gradually start to bring yourself back if you are ready. So if you feel like it's one of those evenings that you can enjoy a little bit longer, always feel free. Make it your practice, you're at home. And if you are ready, just start to invite deeper breaths. You can maybe rock a little bit through the head. If your feet are not into the floor, you might like to bring them there and start to wriggle out through the toes. Lift the heels, lift the toes. Bring the knees in for a hug. A little bit like how we started, just shifting a little bit side to side. And then until you're ready to press the feet back into the floor, you can just roll over to the side here. Use the hands to elevate yourself up, and then we'll come into a seated upright position. And once you're there, just with the closed eyes, take the hands in front of your heart space and breathe deeply in towards your heart space. Really, truly receive the practice. Recognize the qualities that it brought to your body. Thank your body, thank yourself for making the time. And thanking each one of you for joining me and for continuing the practice. Namaste. I hope you all feel a little bit less stress, a little bit less in your minds, emotions, and a little bit more present. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Thank you. And don't worry if you are relaxing back, just turn off to mute. Enjoy that time and have a